David Smith here with another flipped classroom math video. A few tips before we start. Remember that you can speed up or slow down the playback if that helps you follow along. You can also pause the video at any point to catch up with your notes or to try the problems before I explain. Lastly, you could turn on the captions and follow along with my words on the bottom of your screen. Today's topic: theoretical probability with Venn diagrams. I want to say two things about Venns before we get started. First, many of my students don't like doing Venn diagrams. And I think it's probably because there's a fair amount of critical thinking involved in getting your Venn diagram set up right. But it's worth it. So the second point is that Venn diagrams are super useful for calculating probabilities for complicated situations. So let's do a basic one here. So what we're going to get is a situation that shows you a bunch of different numbers about things, and then you need to populate those numbers on your Venn diagram, and then you can start answering questions. So what we've got here is people like hot dogs, people like hamburgers, some people like both, some people like neither. Okay? So 31 like hot dogs, 20 like hamburgers, 12 like neither, and we're given that 50 people have been asked. So what we need to do is add numbers to our Venn diagram that reflect this situation. And you notice, they didn't tell us everything. So we have to use some critical thinking to finish populating that out. Okay? So your first step, add what you know. So we know that there's 50 total. So I tend to put that number like up on the top, outside of the box. You might put it down below. Doesn't matter. It can't go inside the box because that's reserved for a little bit more specific information. Like this one. 12 people like neither. So I'm going to put that one right here. Notice how the 12 is not inside these three circles. Those are the important ones, and we're going to populate those in just a second. So let's take a look at that. This whole circle here is everybody that likes hot dogs. This whole circle is everybody that likes hamburgers. This little intersection here are the people that like both. And there are people that like both in here. We just weren't told that. Okay? So I'm going to show you one way to reason through that. I'm going to make these little things A, B, and C. And we know that A plus B plus C equals something. Pause the video, see if you can figure that out. You have enough information already. Okay, if you got 38, you're right. Because if 12 people don't like anything, then you subtract 12 from 50, and you've got 38 people that like some combination of this food. Okay, so let's figure this out a little bit more closely. 31 like hot dogs, so that's A plus B. A plus B equals 31. Okay, so now we know that C is going to have to equal something. Pause the video and see if you can figure that out. Okay, so if A plus B is 31 and A plus B plus C is 38, then C is going to be 38 minus 31, which is 7. So now we can add our first number inside the Venn diagram. And what that means is that there are 7 people that like hamburgers but don't like hot dogs. They're not in the hot dog circle. Okay, so now that we know what C is, we can figure out the rest of these. Pause the video and see if you can do that. Okay, let's do that. We know that hamburgers is 20. So that's this whole circle is 20, including the B. If the C is 7, then we know that the intersection point there has to be 13, because the whole hamburger circle needs to add up to 20. So we figured out what this was, so this has to be 13. And now we can finish this off. If we know that A plus B is 31, that's this whole circle. Subtract 13 from 31 and we get 18 people. Okay? So let's summarize what we figured out here. We know that 18 people like hot dogs only, 8 people like both, and 7 people like hamburgers only. Now here's the deal. If you add all of these numbers up, 18 plus 13 plus 7 plus 12, it has to equal 50. So you always have a check when you're done populating your Venn diagram. Okay, so let's use our Venn diagram to answer some probability questions. I've written 4 of them up here. Let's go over them real quick so you can pause the video and see if you can calculate those. The first one is probability of liking hamburgers and hot dogs. The second one is the probability of liking exactly one of our two things. The third one is the probability of liking only hot dogs. The last one is the probability that if they like hamburgers, they also like hot dogs. So go ahead and pause the video and see what you get. Okay, let's do these. Hamburgers and hot dogs. That's 13 out of 50, which gives us about 26%. Okay? Now, only one. That would be this 18 and this 7, excluding the 13, because those 13 people like both. So 18 plus 7 is 25 over 50, which is exactly 50%. So that's the probability that somebody likes exactly one. Let's do this. Only hot dogs. So only hot dogs is just this 18 here. We can't include the 13, so that's 18 over 50, which is going to give us 36%. And then this last one, if they like hamburgers, they also like hot dogs. This is the most complicated one. So if they like hamburgers, that's this circle, also likes hot dogs, has to go right back here to this 13, which gives us 13. Now, here's the other difficult spot. What's it out of? So we've got a condition in here. This is a little hint about conditional probability that's coming up. If they like hamburgers. So we're only asking that group the question. So hamburgers is 20. So 20 is our bottom, and this gets us 65%. Now that you've finished, write down any questions so you can bring them to our next class and get some help. Remember that you can always watch the video again to improve your understanding. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button down below, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.